invite you to join us for a lively discussion on what the Bible says about the problems facing today's world with special guest Ron Wyatt, an archaeologist, and your host, John Barella.
Noah's Ark. The Bible tells us in the book of Genesis chapter 8 and verse 4 that the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. Of course, the mountains of Ararat are found in modern-day Turkey, and our guest today is none other than the official discoverer of Noah's Ark, Ron Wyatt, an archaeologist. Ron, now you are obviously a very famous individual, being considered officially by the Turkish government as the discoverer of Noah's Ark.
Well, whether I'm a famous person or not is not real important, John. What we have found is one of the artifacts from antiquity that is in the Bible narrative, and I'm very thrilled to have had a part in its documentation.
Now, there are many people who have claimed to have discovered, of course, Noah's Ark, but the Turkish government, as we mentioned, has determined you as the official discoverer of the ark itself.
The way they explained that was that if there was a diamond out in the street and hundreds of people came along, picked it up, looked at it, kicked it around, threw it down, then somebody came along and picked it up and said, hey, that's a diamond, that the person that recognized it for what it was first was the discoverer. So even though this boat-shaped formation was filmed in an aerial survey in '59, appeared in Life magazine, Reader's Digest, and a group actually went out there in 1960, but after blowing some holes in it and doing some digging, they just said it was nothing of archaeological interest.
Now, there are many people, Ron, who consider the book of Genesis and many of the stories in Genesis, such as Noah, of course, to be mythological and just to be considered as allegories and not actually to be taken literally. And yet we read in the Bible where the ark came to rest upon the mountain of Ararat. Now, is there a literal mountain of Ararat? We have a slide here that we'd like to show the people.
It says mountains, John, plural, of kingdom of ancient Urartu, but we do have a slide here showing a very impressive mountain, and this is Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey. All of these cloud-shrouded peaks in antiquity were revered, being the abode of different gods. In Greece, it was Olympus, where Zeus and all those folks lived. Those were mythological
Now, how many mountain
characters.
peaks are located right in this?
Well, it's like the mountains thing, the Rocky Mountains, John. This whole area of eastern Turkey was included in the ancient kingdom of Urartu, or Ararat. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of mountains out there.
Okay, now we have another slide that you've taken there that is an aerial view, actually.
All right, now this was taken in the aerial survey in 1959. This is where this boat-shaped formation first came to attention. A photogrammetry expert from Ohio State University, Dr. Arthur Brandenberger, identified this as a boat, and he has never changed his mind.
So this is actually the outline of the boat that you discovered?
Well, this is the boat that I have documented as being the remains of Noah's Ark.
And who was it that located this?
It showed up in an aerial survey of eastern Turkey.
When was this now?
This is in 1959.
1959.
Yes. We have several other slides here to show your audience things that parts of the boat. Now, I like to be real thorough in all this, especially since many people claim they had seen the boat on Mount Ararat. And a lot of these people are honest folks. I met them. I'm not calling them a liar. There's lots of rock formations up there that look very much like a boat. So I had a friend take a slide of me taking a sample of the boat, and this is where we first got our scientific evidence, was from the samples that we took out there. Their analysis showed this to be decayed wood, and then, surprisingly enough, it showed a high metal content. So from that point, we went into metal detectors And on these other slides as we progress along here. All right, now this is the boat formation as photographed in 1984. I took Jim Irwin, Marv Steffens,
Jim Irwin being the former astronaut.
Right, Apollo 15 moonlander pilot. Very nice gentleman, very good Christian man.
Here's a man that went to the moon, and he went to find the Ark.
That's correct. That's correct. He hasn't been as convinced as I have that this is the actual remains. If the audience will look along the side here, you can see the rib timbers reflected in the outside. Our metal detection equipment and our subsurface interface radar equipment has verified that that indeed is timbers.
So all of the technological equipment that you took there confirmed your findings?
That's correct, yes. If, say, for example, if we had taken the radar scanner out there and nothing would have shown up on it, then, we wouldn't have the evidence that we have today. All right, now along the side of this embankment that we're looking at here, you see the flags. These are reflections of rib timbers along the side of the boat. Also, the white tape shows the presence of a keelson, which parallels the keel and is part of the, structure of a boat. And all of these things are present in this formation.
Now, when people think about someone finding Noah's Ark, of course, some would think that you would find a boat with the cages and some of this. Now, were you able to determine anything like this?
There's a lot of metal in there. We have found the outline of chambers in the craft. Some of these are shown to be clear of any debris. They're open at this point in time.
So you were actually able to penetrate with your with your high-tech equipment.
Right.
That there's actually chambers within.
That's correct. Yes. Now the size of those chambers indicates that Noah took small animals or just weaned animals on board, and so the big lumbering elephants and things of that nature apparently weren't there. They took youthful ones in, and we were able to use metal detectors, and this is Dr. John Baumgartner, who we invited out to the site and just recently got back from a trip out there. We were able to measure the depth of the deposit through an earthquake crack in 1979. Dr. Baumgartner took some very elaborate core drilling equipment out and confirmed the depth of the deposit as being 12 feet like we originally arrived at. Now we have here a photograph of some of the people that we took out there in 1984, and we have, this is me I was a little younger and the hair was a little different shade at that point in time. Here's the boat formation right here. Now what is remarkable about this site is that we were able with a metal detector in 1984 to dig in and find a petrified timber, and laying right alongside that timber is an iron bracket. We took samples of these things, had them analyzed, and that's exactly what it is. It's what it looks like. It's what the metal detector showed it to be, and the chemical analysis showed it to be 91% iron.
Now, was this Ark found actually on Mount Ararat itself?
No, John, it was found right across the valley from that site, approximately 12 miles away from it. Now, Ararat's an active volcano that its last hurrah to date was in 1849, and this blew a massive chunk out of the side of the mountain, destroyed the Ohura, village of Ohura, and wiped out the monastery known as St. Jacob's Monastery. All right, this is a look at the boat here on the site with some of the ribbons that we placed on it.